because you cannot have a conversation about poverty, welfare, or food stamps without being called a racist. Who does that leave out in the cold? White America. Because by any calculation, we can put up this chart, white Americans make up the majority of poor America living below the poverty level. They make up the majority of people on food stamps and in welfare. So if you can't have a conversation without being called a racist about poverty, welfare, and food stamps, then you can't talk about white people. So I think those three things combined is making it really hard for Democrats to woo the white vote. I'm not so sure that they want to.
And they've had this difficult time historically. President Obama, he won with 43% of the white vote in 2008. Apparently, this is 4 percentage points below Carter, equal to Bill Clinton. Where he really made gains was among young white voters, where he won 54%. But historically, I'm looking at this Politico piece here. In the past 3 decades, no Democratic presidential nominee has won more than 45% of young whites. And I think there's another element to this, and in terms of for voters under 30. Why the Democratic Party has had such a hard time historically appealing to white voters tend more often to be married. And a lot of the social problems, the social pathologies that Democrats are sort of built their party to address are really in the minority population. You said the 68% of poor people are white. However, the white folks who are voting tend to be married more often than, say, the minority voters that go to the polling booth.
You know, I think that the answer, S.E., that you gave that was most compelling to me was number 3, was the dog whistle. I think the hunt for the dog whistle over the last 4 years has turned off a lot of white voters. The assumption is constantly forwarded that you're racist. If you say the word Chicago or golf or whatever it may be, you're a racist. And I think the dog whistle hunt turns you off. I'm not a racist.
Of course it does.
Now, to further that point, Amy, you point out some of the white vote that Barack Obama has won. He won more, let's put this into context, than both Gore and Kerry. He won a bigger percentage of white vote than Gore and Kerry. But I also want to say this. While I think the dog whistle hunt is so offensive, and I do not take part in that game, I'm also not going to pretend like race doesn't exist. I think the fact that Barack Obama wins 90% of the black vote has something to do with the fact that he's black. And I think that a Latino, should he be running for national office, would win a greater percentage of the Latino vote than historical averages would show. So that begs the question, what does race have to do with this? Are we going to say nothing?
Well, but if you're looking at Barack Obama's share of the white vote and that it was higher than for white candidates, then clearly there are white voters who were not paying attention to President Obama's race or perhaps felt that they were doing something progressive for America for electing a black man.
I'm asking now.
Now
that it's such a big spread,
I don't think those
are we to
voters
say
have
race
become
has
racist.
nothing to do with it?
Well,
no, it's not about race.
Doesn't it kind of undermine the Obama campaign's overall economic message when we see the sort of the balkanization tactics we've been talking about? I mean, if you're going to sort of break it down into constituencies, and it's always, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And then, as Obama did in the most recent debate, say, well, I'm a free market guy, and I'm all about the growth of small business and everything else. Those two things, to me, seem to be in conflict with people, because if that was your message, you wouldn't have to do those balkanizing politics. You wouldn't have to be reaching out to individual groups, having separate websites, having separate sort of meetups for political purposes. I think that people recognize there's an incongruity there, that there's not a sense that the economic message that they pretend to be carrying is really what they believe. They think it's a patchwork. They can put together the votes they need by giving people what they need to give them, whatever the constituency is, and that's how Barack Obama gets elected. I think that turns off some of the white voters.
So do you think it's that white voters are feeling ignored in that balkanization project because they are not getting their special meetup or their special message?
I think that's probably a part of it, but I think that it just shows that the Obama administration is not serious about these broader economic concepts they're talking about. And when they say we're all in it together, that's to fake out some of the liberals in the middle who go, oh, well, I sort of like that concept. Meanwhile, they're running around saying, we're not all in this together. We're going to do this for you. We're going to do this for you. We're going to do this for you. And meanwhile, Mitt Romney's saying, how about small businesses and lower taxes? That's for everybody.
Listen, the bottom line is white guilt got Obama elected in 2008, period. And I called that early on in the summer of 07 when I saw how Hollywood and all these people were falling all over themselves because he was light-skinned enough, he spoke well enough, he was articulate and clean enough, according to our current vice president. And this was going to be historic, that this white guilt of, oh, I don't want to be the one that doesn't vote for the black guy, that was overwhelmingly going to move a lot of folks who weren't happy with the Sarah Palin McCain ticket over to Barack Obama. That allure is gone because Barack Obama, within the first 6 months, started hemorrhaging independent voter support because they saw what he actually was. The whole hope and change thing was smoke and mirrors for what he really wanted to do, and he's really a progressive left-wing liberal, and middle America doesn't like it.
There certainly were white voters who I think were operating on that basis, but if you look at his support among young white voters, I think they thought it was cool. I think that they felt that he represented.
I'm going to give the president a little more credit than that. You know, I don't judge you very harshly for voting for him the first time. White, black, young, old, I get it. There was a lot of apathy after 2008. A lot of Republicans were sick of George Bush.
I wasn't excited to vote for McCain. Were you?
I was not. And I have to think that the people who might have felt like, oh, it would be really exciting to vote for a woman, i.e. Sarah Palin, were some of the same people who thought it might be really exciting to vote for a black candidate and be part of this historic movement. I get it. I really do. And I'm not so sure it was all white guilt. I think people got really caught up. He was the candidate that the alternative was offering. Right. I get it. It completely collapsed, and people are either willfully ignoring the collapse, or they're deciding they're in the tank and they need their first vote completely reaffirmed.
Now we have 4 years of results. It's not the story.
Could you say, SC, that support that has collapsed in the white community, they voted for who Obama was, not what he had done. Now there's a record, and now they're judging him against that.
Well, that's to Will's point. You would hope that if the spread it remains at 21 points between Romney and Obama among white voters, you would hope that it's because of his very obvious terrible record.